guys, it's Hope. Welcome back to Bored Housewife of Silicon Valley. Today we are doing book vlog 3, I think, because I have some books I would like to write some little reviews on, reader reactions to, whatever you want to call it, little paragraphs. I've read 4 books this week, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 5. I've read 5 books this week, and I think I'm going to write about 4 of them. I don't know that I'm going to write about the 5th because it's the 2nd book in the series, but I'm going to talk about it. So we'll talk about the last couple of books that I've read, and then I will do a couple blog posts on them. It should be a good time. I am going to have to eat lunch at some point and possibly have a drink, coffee or something. It's going up to like 30 degrees here today, which is going to be so hot. So the AC might be coming on, but it won't be on quite yet. And I think that's it. I think it's just gonna be a pretty chill little video. So stick around and we'll talk about some books. All right, so the books on today's agenda are the Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, a thriller book. The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. This was longlisted for the Women's Press in Fiction. It was not shortlisted. And based on people's reactions, it seems surprising, I guess, that it wasn't shortlisted for a lot of people. Talk about that in a bit. We have While Time Remains by Yeonmi Park. She wrote In Order to Live, which is her memoir about surviving North Korea and escaping from North Korea. And now this is kind of reflections of living in America. And I'll get further into that one as well later on. I also read, they are ebooks, so they're on the iPad that I am filming on. So I read Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, which has now been shortlisted for the Women's Prize in Fiction. And I read The Great Hunt by Jordan Robert. We'll figure that out. And that is book 2 in the Eye of the World series. So that's the one that I don't know that I'm going to write about, simply because it is book 2 in the series and I didn't write about book 1, but we'll see how the day plays out. And yeah, that is that. I've got to figure out which one I'm going to start with. I think I might start with While Time Remains, because I have some thoughts about this book. So, you know what, let's just get into it. So her first book, as I said, was a memoir, and this one is a lot more about kind of observations of her time in America, and particularly political observations. And so there's a lot goes on in this book in what she is commenting on, and I have great respect for what she's observing and how she's observing it, and how she comes from a very different point of view than, you know, most North Americans would come from. Most people born in North America, Canada, the States, maybe even Western civilization, and how they view politics versus her growing up in, you know, a very oppressed country and coming out of it and having to escape out of it, and what that looks like, and how she had to do the things she had to do to get out of it. And now being in the States for, I believe she's coming up on about, I think she becomes an American citizen in 2015 or 2016. So, you know, not even 10 years yet, but she's obviously been put on a, not a pedestal, but she has the stage, she has the spotlight because of her experience and how she's trying to speak out and how she is trying to protect people and help people in North Korea, but also trying to hold those accountable outside North Korea who are still assisting the regime in oppressing North Koreans. It talks a lot about that in this book, and obviously I'm being very high level, very superficial in my description of this book. And so I appreciate what she has to say about a lot of things. She talks about just how people say they want to help, but their actions speak differently. There's a lot on cancel culture. It's a lot about how things are very black and white, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of gray. And so I like I've said this so many times now, I can appreciate what she's saying and I agree with some of it, but I disagree with some of it as well, as you do when it comes to politics, because it's not a black and white subject, I don't think. I think there is a lot of gray area in politics. I think it should be gray. I don't think that there should be black and white, but it's very different from her memoir. And it's kind of surprising, actually, what she has to say about where the States is headed and how it's a slippery slope. And again, this is all just her personal opinion, and she is entitled to that, as anybody is entitled to their personal opinion, and our ability to try to sympathize, empathize with where somebody's coming from, even if it is not your specific point of view as well. There might be some divergence, and that's fine. You don't need to, and you shouldn't completely agree with everything everybody is saying all the time. I think that would make for a very boring world. But it is just about how there are things in politics that maybe we should be slightly concerned about, and she offers some examples and some comparisons, and anyways, it's interesting. Like I said, I didn't agree with everything she had to say, but I respect what she is saying because of where she comes from, and I think that she does present an argument that I think a lot of people would find compelling. And so I am very glad that I read this book, but like I said, was not at all what I was expecting it to be. I'm not really sure what I was expecting the book to be, but it is not part 2 of her memoir. It is a very different type of book, and I think it's awesome that she was able to write it because it is so different, and I think she does offer a very unique perspective. So I think that is where I'm going to start, because I feel like it's going to be kind of the easiest one to write about, simply because of what it is, and I'm fairly confident in what I have to say about it and what my feelings are towards this book. And the other ones, I think my feelings are still a little murky. So let's start with this, and we'll see where we end up. What time is it? It is 5 minutes after 12. It's a little too early for lunch still, but we're gonna see where the afternoon takes us, shall we? Okay, half an hour later, and I have written at least the basic first go through of a blog post for While Time Remains. I went in and realized one of the posts that I was supposed to put up like a month ago didn't get published, so that was kind of annoying. I have to take a picture of the book if I don't just do a screenshot, but again, the whole point of me doing this is just to try to become more consistent with writing, and it hasn't been going very smoothly. It's been a month since I've posted, so, and this next month is going to be weird. Like, trying to create a schedule is just not going to go very well, but whatever, I'm doing what I can do. I haven't had to type in a while, and so fully just like getting my fingers to move the way they're supposed to move. It's so funny how they feel slow. When I worked in an office, obviously I typed all the time and my typing speed was really good. You had to actually take a typing test to even be qualified for the position. But my typing now is just, it's so slow. I'm so out of practice. You leave university and you stop doing, you know, the massive amount of sitting in front of the screen, and it just, you lose the skill. It's really funny, a skill that I didn't even think I would. Anyways, it's just weird. But I have, like I said, done this, and so I think I'm going to, it's 12:30, take a bit of a break, have some lunch, and then get back to it, because maybe I'll take a break and just take a couple pictures of these books. I don't like, the problem with taking pictures is because they're all library books, they've got like that shiny film on top of it, and so taking pictures is kind of really annoying with them, actually. because you always have a glare. Anyways, I'll try to figure something else, something out. I might just take a screenshot of the title of the cover or something and do it that way. That might be the easier way, actually. But that is where we're at. And what am I gonna do? Oh, because it is only 12:30. I'm not quite hungry. All right, maybe I will write about the writing retreat. Maybe I'll do that. So I think that this is, I'm pretty sure Kayla from Books and Lala, does she have a book club or something? She's doing a live about this book, I think at the end of the week, actually, at the end of April. And I've never participated in any of her things, but I just saw that this was one of her books and it was available at the library, so I grabbed it. That's not true. I put it on hold, but the wait wasn't very long and I got it. And this is a thriller. It follows, what is her name? Alex. And she wants to be a writer, and she gets accepted or invited to this very exclusive writing retreat with an author that she loves, a really famous author that she really loves. And they're in this mansion that is said to be haunted, and then they're very cut off from civilization, like, you know, no internet, there's a landline, and obviously in a thriller, things start to happen. Somebody goes missing, are things not what they appear to be, what's happening, what are the dynamics in the group, the whole thing. I don't know what I think of this book. I think it started out okay and interesting, but I think part of it is I didn't really love the protagonist. Alex wasn't my favorite, and then there's another girl, Ren, who plays a pretty large role in it. You don't get her perspective or anything, but she's a very prominent character. And it kind of just evolved into this mess that I didn't understand, and I didn't appreciate in the way that maybe some readers would. So I have very mixed feelings about this. As I don't know if you've noticed, because it's not like I've done a ton of these videos or anything, but as you've maybe noticed with most thrillers these days, I'm just confused by them. Like, I don't get where you think you're drawing tension from, because they seem, and I get it, you know, thrillers aren't meant to be realistic necessarily, but some are just so outlandish that I can't get behind them. And this is kind of one of them, because there's a story within a story that I didn't care about, and I didn't understand what it was adding to the book. And again, maybe it's something I'm missing. Maybe I should watch the live of this book from Books and Lala, because maybe I'll understand more. There'll be a much more intelligent discussion about this book than I have on my own. But yeah, there was something about it that I appreciate. Like, I'm glad I read it. It was fine. It was entertaining enough, but it really wasn't great. And I'm beginning to think that there is no such thing as a 5-star thriller read for me, which is kind of depressing, because I really like thrillers, but I'm struggling so hard with them lately and finding anything that I appreciate a lot. So maybe I'll write that, and then I'll take a bit of a breather and do lunch. I don't even know what I'm doing for lunch. But yeah, I think that's what I'll do. So let's write this blurb, and then I will be back to talk about the next one on the list. Started book 3, having a hot chocolate. My stomach's really bothering me, and for some reason hot chocolate is just my go-to comfort food. It's very weird, but it is like just anytime I'm not feeling well or I'm just having a rough day, hot chocolate is like my antidote. Anyways, whatever. It's so hot out. The fact that I'm drinking hot chocolate right now is wild, which is why it got dark. I had to shut my blinds and I had the fan going. So if you can hear the fan, I apologize, but it's not coming off because I don't want to turn the AC on. But I have started writing a little post on The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. This book was, as I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned it earlier, it was longlisted for the Women's Prize in Fiction. It was not shortlisted, and I would say this is the one book that when people are kind of doing their predictions or they're reacting to the shortlist, this is the book that a lot of people are shocked didn't make the cut. It seems to be, it's got quite a bit of praise. People are loving it. It's a debut novel, and it was a really fun read. I enjoyed reading it a lot. It wasn't a 5-star read or a best of. It's not a book that I will purchase or anything, but I definitely enjoyed it. So this follows Geeta, and Geeta is a woman who is part of a very small community in India, and she has kind of this group of friends. I'll call them friends loosely, because they're all part of the same like microloan thing, and I don't really know the politics behind it, but they're part of the same group. And so she has these relationships with these women because I guess they depend on each other to make sure that they're paying their loan on time. But 5 years ago, Geeta's husband disappeared. Nobody has any idea what happened to him, but the rumor around the village is that Geeta murdered him. And so she has this reputation of kind of being like a witch. And she's kind of basked in that reputation and that people leave her alone. But as you go along and you see how people responded to her post her husband disappearing, how she perceives the situation and how others perceive the situation was very different. And so she's kind of isolated herself, thinking that that's what people wanted, but it's not necessarily what people wanted. It's really interesting. And anyways, one of these women that she shares this loan with, whose name is, oh, what's her name? What are the other? Farah. I believe it's Farah. One of these other women, whose name I believe is Farah, comes to her and says, "How did you get rid of your husband? Because I want to get rid of mine." And things just super spiral out of control as they do. It's a funny book, but it's also a very poignant look at caste and positioning and politics and even the business of microloans to women and male and female expectations in society. It is in India. It is really interesting the way that there is a lot of levity and lightheartedness to the book, but it's got I don't want to say bleak, but a very serious undertone to it. So the balance in the writing and the storytelling and getting this message across is done very, very, very well. It's like the fact that it's a debut novel is quite impressive in the writing, and it's a really interesting book. It's one that I can definitely understand why people would have wanted it on the short list and why people are loving it. So definitely a book that I'm thrilled to have been able to get from the library. I've possibly mentioned it before, but my library doesn't have all the books off of the Women's Prize for Fiction, and so the ones that I could get my hands on, I was really stoked too. And the fact that they had this one, I'm so thrilled that they had this one. So we are going to finish up the blog post on this. I am listening to, it's called Overdrive. It's a radio station, TSN radio station in Toronto, and they have like a talk show every afternoon. It's a sports talk show, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing Game 5 tonight against Tampa Bay, and it's a possible elimination game. So Toronto is on edge because of their history. It doesn't matter. It's a whole thing, but the Leafs, I think my hat has been sitting in the back for a lot of this video too. So listening to some hockey talk and writing my blog post, having my hot chocolate, and we'll see where it goes. I might only do these 3 books. I'm really not feeling the hottest. So that's super annoying because it hasn't been the most productive week, but what can you do? But what I might try to do is actually totally complete these posts. Might try to get the thumbnails and stuff done for them and go from there. But for now, let's finish writing this, do some pictures, and then I will see how I'm feeling. But yeah, I hope you guys are still hanging around. I don't know. These are, I do these for me. I do them for something to do and because it's fun, and I like talking about books, but I'm not, yeah, I'm just, if you're still here, thanks, I appreciate it. But, you know, one person in a sea of a million on YouTube, it's a wild, wild thing to be doing. I still am a little baffled by the fact that I'm doing it. But that's a side tangent. Let's finish the blog post. Finished the Bandit Queens. I just took screenshots and I'm just going to use them as my pictures. I just, like I said, library books are really challenging to take pictures of, and because it's the middle of the afternoon, the sun is just everywhere, I wouldn't be able to get a picture without a glare, so I'm not even going to bother trying. One thing I would like to remember moving forward, and I always try to do this when I'm reading, but I shouldn't say that. I've tried to do it, but I'm very inconsistent and I forget, is I try to put a post-it on the front and then just make notes on pages that have good quotes or just say something interesting. And I need to do that more frequently so that I can kind of include some quotes in these little posts, because I think it would help build out what I'm trying to say better. And I didn't do that for any of these books, and it's a shame because, you know, it just adds a little bit more context to what I'm trying to write. And I really need to get better about that, because obviously, because they're not my books, I'm not, you know, highlighting or anything in them. And it's just a habit that I have not created, but would really like to try. So we'll see. Plus, when you have Canva, you can make little quote posters and stuff that are very pretty and nice, and they would look good. It would just be a random bolded statement or something. You could make it a little bit more creative. But that is that. I really was going to try to get to Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, but I'm not going to. I can talk about it. Let's talk about Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. So this is a book about the Troubles in Ireland, the conflict between Catholics and Protestants, and it follows a girl named Shula, and she's young. She's about 24. She lives with her mom. Her mom is an alcoholic, and her brother owns a bar, or their family owns a bar, but her brother runs it. And Shula begins an affair with a married man, and she's a teacher. And so she kind of has this storyline being a teacher, and she gets involved with a family, and then also being the mistress of this older gentleman, who I believe is in his 50s, I think. And the affair is not hidden very well. Like, she goes out with him, and they meet up with friends and stuff, and so nobody talks about it, about the wife, or the fact that this is the mistress being brought to these kind of gatherings, but it's a well-known secret, I guess is what it is, except that they must have different religions, or it's very, very complicated, and it obviously deals very heavily with the fact that Catholics and Protestants couldn't stand each other, and there were bombs and assassinations and essentially kind of a civil war going on, and what that does to the relationships and the people around them, and how relationships that you are not even directly involved with can really could impact you very personally because of just, you know, degrees of separation. And so I quite enjoyed it. It, like I said, did make the short list for the Women's Prize in Fiction. It's a historical fiction, really well done. I think the story it just fit into the overarching theme, or the overarching telling of this point in time, and I think it did a really, really good job of it. I think the fact that the protagonist, Shula, was only 24, and all the stuff was going around you, there was a little bit of naivety in what was happening you were seeing what was happening as a reader in the broad strokes of things, but her own life, she was a little naive, and because she was 24, you understood kind of why that was happening. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and am not at all surprised that it made the short list. I'm trying to think about what I've heard people I feel like it's been fairly well received as a book. I think that the Bandit Queens, I've seen a little bit more hype around. People were really excited about this one, and the Trespasses, or just Trespasses, doesn't have that same kind of excitement and exuberance and hype, but I think possibly it's because of the topic, because it is historical fiction. It definitely has a little bit more of a somber tone, and the writing was, again, really well done. I really enjoyed that book. So I think so far the Women's Prize has done me quite well. The only one that I didn't love, I think, was the one by Natalie Haynes, which was the Greek mythology retelling, because I'm not super into Greek mythology, but that's totally fine. I've seen a lot of people really like that book. And so it's been a great reading experience. If you have the chance to check out any of them, I definitely would, even if they didn't make the short list. A lot of the ones that have been cut now are absolutely still worth your time. But yeah, Trespasses. Very, very happy to have been able to read that one, and was very happy to read about a time that I know of, but I don't know really well. Again, it's not a point in history where that is taught to me in school, because I am Canadian, or was taught. I think it was one that you would have had to take a more specialized class in maybe high school, but possibly university, and I didn't study history in university. So just a really good, well-written book, and I am thrilled that it was put on my radar. So I'm not going to write a blog post about that one right now. I did get a screenshot of the cover, so I have that available to me. But I think that this is where I'm going to end things. This kind of went off the rails a little. Didn't exactly do what I thought I was going to get done in this video, but you know what? Something got done, and that at least is a bonus for me. But I thank you so much for sticking around if you're still here, and I appreciate those of you that have clicked the subscribe button so far. I'm not sure exactly how many. The last time I checked there were 5. There could be less, there could be more now, I'm not sure, but I'm super, super stoked to have you, and hopefully I'll just keep getting better at doing these things. So yeah, I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.